What is up, everybody? Welcome back to J&B Unsupervised. The third time is the charm, right, Brandon? Third time's the charm?
Different kinds of charm.
Third
It
time's the
happened.
charm. So, welcome back to another episode, guys. First and foremost, thoughts and prayers out to California right now. They are burning, and I mean literally burning. People are losing a lot of things. They've arrested 3 people so far in that whole setting the fires, whatever. I just know that people are never getting out of jail anytime soon. Like, they just not coming home. But outside of that, thoughts and prayers. We're going to jump right into the college football. We had our 2 college football games. We had Penn State and Notre Dame, and it was a close one, 24-27. Honestly, I thought Penn State was going to pull this one out, but Notre Dame, they rallied behind their quarterback. Quarterback went down early, and then was able to bounce back, had himself a game. What's your takeaway from that Notre Dame game?
It's finally nice to see Notre Dame finally, punch through, whether it's been in like the playoffs or before they had the playoffs way back when, which is the best time
Yeah,
seeds win because they're not in a conference, so they don't
yeah,
get that
they
done.
get,
But to me, the biggest takeaway to me personally is one, like Notre Dame finally has a head coach that can get them over the hump. But honestly, in the
yes,
year of because like the game was a good game and overall, and I feel like
yeah.
it could have went either way. A couple plays go a different way, a turnover here or there. But I personally feel like that what I want to talk about personally is Notre Dame is not in a conference, and a team that
Yeah.
makes the semifinals, you get
Yep.
7 million to your conference. So then, like Texas, Ohio State, those teams that have made to the semifinals, their conference gets 1.3 million dollars spread throughout them. But Notre Dame's not in their conference, so they get a pocket all
Yep.
7 mil.
They
You
get to
make it
keep
to the
every last cent.
Making to the Natty, I think it's like $14 million that
Yeah.
goes to your conference. So they're really getting about almost $21 million all to themselves. Notre Dame should never not be good in the age of NIL money.
Well,
They're
you're
going to
not
be
wrong.
flush with cash.
Well, you got to remember right before the game started, or like I think the day before the game started, the Penn State head coach even said in the conference or press conference, he was like, "No disrespect to Notre Dame, but I think everybody should be in a conference because, like you said, they're pocketing all this money. They don't have to split with nobody. Unlike everybody else that's winning, we have to split it with the SEC or whoever, whatever conference. When we got to split it with everybody, which is a little unfair if you're asking me. Because, like you
Or
said,
maybe you should follow Notre Dame's footsteps
yeah,
and not be in a conference and fund your own program and have your own deal with the TVs and in the streaming services, and that way
yeah.
you be able to make more money for your own program. I mean, they're independent and
I have to
it's a web.
give Notre Dame a little bit of credit. Their defense showed out against Penn State. One note from from the game is no wide receiver from Penn State had a catch. They locked down all the wide receivers. So if I'm Penn State, I need to get in the transfer portal. I need to call somebody to open up a checkbook because we need some wide receivers down here in Penn State. Because no, you telling me not a wide receiver got a catch? That's crazy. That was wild when I saw that stat. It was
I think
all
the only
running backs and tight ends. Like the wide receivers couldn't catch nothing. So but Notre Dame's headed to the Natty. Um, you know, and honestly, I think it's gonna be a good game. So jumping over to Ohio State and Texas. Ohio State beat Texas 28-14. Now everyone's gonna look like, oh, it was a 2 touchdown game. In reality, it was not. This game was a dogfight, and it came down to turnover. Well, one turnover. Matter of fact, the 4th and goal strip sack, and Ohio State returned it for the touchdown, and that really ended the game.
yeah.
But Texas defense did show out against Ohio State. You saw they were basically playing cover 3 on Jeremiah Smith. They weren't going to let Jeremiah get anything. They had 3 dudes following that dude around the whole game. Then he had, I think, 1 catch for 3 yards, which is crazy because in the Oregon game, the dude damn near had 200 yards receiving and 2 tutties, and Texas wasn't going to give you that. So it's a real quick before we talk about Ohio State. You got to give Texas a little bit of credit. First season in the SEC, and they were a game away from the national championship. I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty impressive considering Oklahoma came in with them, and Oklahoma lost to Navy in a bowl game that everybody just swept under the goddamn radar. But you have to give Texas their credit. Their defense showed out, but it came down to Ohio State's defense stepped up more clutch. And now Ohio State's moving on to the Natty. And then I guess you got to ask yourselves, what's more important to Ohio State fans? Beating Michigan or winning the Natty? Like, what is more important to Ohio State fans here?
I mean, can we not get both? Can we not get both? Like,
No, apparently for Ohio State, no, you
like,
can't
oh,
get both. It's one or the other. It's
I'm
one or the other.
pretty sure Ohio State would take losing to Michigan every year if that meant they got to win the national championship game.
Pretty much.
I just know that Ohio State, they might have lost to Michigan this year, but if they pull off and then win the Natty, I still feel like Michigan's going to get their national championship from last year strip. So, I mean, you kind of win twice with Ohio State.
Speaking of that, it has been really weird how that just kind of, like, you ain't heard nothing about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to that stuff? Like, all that cheating, it was all proven. I mean, it's there. And then, but nothing. So I don't know what to make of that. There was talks of something happening, and then we've heard nothing. The NCAA went quiet, which I think is crazy. So, but yeah, I think you're right. If Ohio State had the ability to win a national championship every year and lose to Michigan, you take that because, like,
I don't know.
But now we're getting Ohio State and Notre Dame in the national championship. Now, I don't know, Notre Dame, yes, they've gotten there. Always the question's been, can Notre Dame get over the hump? Can they get over the hump? Well, now they're over the hump. They're in the national championship. Now it's another hump. Can you beat a powerhouse like Ohio State in the national championship? Because Ohio State is a powerhouse. However people want to feel about that, they are.
Yeah.
And the question becomes what will Notre Dame's defense be like against Ohio State? Are you going to take a page out of Texas book, play a cover 3 on Jeremiah, or you just think that they're going to come in with whatever game plan they've had since the playoffs started and just roll with that? Like, what do you think their defensive scheme should be?
I mean, personally, I think they got to stop the run first and foremost, in my opinion, for Notre Dame. And if it's kind of, to me, I shut everybody else down and let him get off. I think they have the guys where they can strap everybody else down and contain the run. I think, to me, that's probably the best scenario. But if he starts getting off and everybody else starts eating, you have to stop. You have to cut the head off somewhere. You have to take something away. And stopping him, obviously, it didn't work. They still won, even though he got shut down. So that obviously is not a great recipe for success because they still won with him not having a big game. So I let him potentially go off and shut everybody else down. Shut the run game down, make them one-dimensional, and take away the medium to long ball and make it a shorter passing game out towards the sidelines.
For me, the one thing that worries me about Notre Dame in this game is when they get into the red zone. You saw how Ohio State's defense is not giving up really anything in the red zone. I mean, you saw what they did to Texas. Every time Texas got there, they just stuffed them. Can Notre Dame get in and score touchdowns? That's what it's going to take, not field goals. You're going to have to be able to get the ball in the end zone, especially when you're in the red zone. But that's where I would be like to see where they give is, because I think Notre Dame has weapons, but can they get, will it be enough? I think Notre Dame's definitely going to have to try to establish the run game, get their tight ends going, and then everything else will flow for them. But if Ohio State comes in and knocks out their run game, I think Notre Dame could be in big trouble, especially with Ohio State's front. Their front is really good. They apply a lot of pressure. They don't give up many yards in the run game. So it's going to be an interesting game. I still think Ohio State's going to win this game. I think Ohio State wins it by 10. I'm thinking like 27-17 is what I'm thinking. I think Ohio State will pull away in the fourth. I think it'll be close, and in the fourth quarter, I just think Notre Dame's going to be so worn out by Ohio State that's where Ohio State will just make their money in the fourth quarter. Me personally.
I mean, you're allowed to have your opinion. That's what I'll say about that. You're allowed to have your opinion. Notre Dame didn't get there by accident. And honestly, to me, it's going to come down to just the trenches. Who's going to win the trenches on both sides of the ball, and who's going to make the least amount of mistakes. And to me, they're quite evenly matched. It's probably the best Notre Dame team they've had in a long time, obviously.
Yeah.
And I just think whoever makes the least amount of mistakes is we're
That's
going to win this
fair.
game. But that's what we saw in both games. It came down to who made the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah.
Like for both teams, it's big to get touchdowns in the red zone and not field goals.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm looking forward to the game. I don't know what day they play on. I think it's got to be sometime next week, I believe, when they play. I don't think they play this week. I think it's the following week. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for the game to see who pulls out the national championship. Who knows? Notre Dame could pull out the upset. We never know. But yeah, so that's college football. I'm just happy we had two good games personally in the college football playoffs. Like,
Finally,
because everything leading up to this has been a disappointment.
outside of the Arizona State Texas game that was made interesting kind of late in the fourth quarter and went into two
Yeah.
overtimes. But again, it just kind of proves my point that we don't need a 12-team playoff. The 4-team playoff
But
format worked great because the
I have to
four teams
admit,
that
I
was there
have to
were
say,
good.
I was excited for it. You were like, "No, this is going to be horrible." You were right on that. It's been horrible. You've
Yeah,
always said we either 6 or 8 teams max, but we could do with 6. But the 12, it was too much. But I just don't think the NCAA is going to admit that they were wrong, and they're going to stick with it because, like you said, the money grab.
as
These teams get in,
long as they still make
so
the money, they're not going to change it. And I
no.
don't. I would love to see what the ratings were on all those earlier playoff games because they couldn't have been great. They might have been
Well,
higher to
we
start,
even said this
but they
before. I
just
think it
petered
was
off.
what last week or the week before. The other games that were not the college football playoffs were a
Although
lot
the bowl
closer
game,
and better to watch than the actual college football playoffs. So,
yeah.
like you said, outside of the Arizona Texas game, that was really the only close game we had leading up to these two games that we just had. So,
Mm.
but nevertheless, we got the Natty coming up. I'm excited for that. Moving into the NFL, we have the top 5 draft picks in this upcoming draft. The Jacksonville Jaguars have the 5th pick. The Patriots have the 4th. The Giants the 3rd. The Browns the 2nd. And the Tennessee Titans have the 1st overall pick. Which Tennessee made some, moves. They fired their GM, which is crazy. The Tennessee Titans spent $326 million this past offseason. That's wild to me. I don't know who you spent it on, who you got over there on the roster, but boy, I didn't see it. I don't know who got that money. You need to get some of the money back because that was a complete overspend. But Tennessee's got the 1st overall pick. We know the guys we got coming out in this draft: the Travis Hunters, the Shador Sanders, Cam Wards. We got Jalen Monroe. You got Quinn Ewers coming out. So I don't know what Tennessee's gonna do. Who do you think's gonna move up? Who's gonna move down?
Well,
I don't know.
for Tennessee, for me, I mean, they got to get they have to get a quarterback. Mayo, the mayonnaise quarterback, he's obviously not the answer. They're
No.
starting
Well,
fresh, and to me, you have to get your quote unquote franchise guys. You got to take them out one. It's obviously not going to be Shador. It's probably going to be Cam Ward,
yeah,
or
I'm thinking
maybe
Cam Ward as
Milrow, but
well.
it's probably going to be Cam Ward, and then I really don't know. Like the Raiders, you could toss the Raiders up, and then they could be a potential team that could trade up to try to land
Yeah,
Shador or Travis. There's rumors that they've reached out to Bill Belichick, even though he just signed with North Carolina, but that's only a $10 million buyout. But after June 1st,
yeah.
it's only $1 million buyout. I don't necessarily see Bill Belichick just kind of cutting
Well,
ties
there's
and
also
going.
rumors that Tom reached out to Dion, and now Dion supposedly has interest in the Raiders' job to potentially coach his son. So that means the Raiders would have to jump up to grab Shador Sanders. They'd have to. I
Yeah,
don't think Dion's leaving, but I don't know at this point. Tom Brady. I mean, the Raiders fired their head coach. They fired the GM, so all these spots are open.
well,
I think for me,
they wouldn't
go
have to.
ahead.
They wouldn't have to jump up to go get Shador. He would just be like, all he got to be like, I'm not going to play for you. And the team's
True.
not
I
going to
mean,
want
that's
that, want to do all that. And like or maybe Shador wants to go to the Giants. I mean, he was saw
he did
during
wear those
the
cleats.
Heisman. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, during the Heisman ceremony, not during the ceremony, but during the Heisman, he was saw on the street of New York, New Jersey.
yeah,
Technically, the Giants are located in New Jersey, not New York. Crazy enough, but he was on the streets
yeah.
playing
That fucked
Malik
me up.
Neighbors. Yeah,
Yeah,
fucking
so
get
I agree with you. I think Tennessee is going to take Cam Ward. Now the question becomes, what do the Browns do? So we obviously got the breaking news that Deshaun Watson retore the same Achilles, so his season's probably completely
the
done for
season's done.
next year.
The season,
It's done. Well, he's done. Let's be real. Deshaun Watson's done. They're just stuck with the money. They can't move him. Nobody's going to take it. What do the Browns do, like with the second overall pick? Like, do you try to go get a veteran quarterback out there, trade that pick, try to get more picks for following years? Like, what do they do?
I mean, to me, it just kind of depends on how you value your overall roster for them from the defensive side and offensive side. Like this year, to me, defensively, it was kind of the defense kind of looked like it's aging out a little bit. Miles Garrett's made it clear that he wants to win, he wants to contend,
You don't
and
want to rebuild.
well, of course he was going to rebuild. I mean, he's hitting the peak of his prime years, and he wants to
Well,
be
he's already
actually be a
been through a
contender
rebuild a couple of times already,
a couple of
theoretically.
times, and
So you got to think about it too. Like, what if the Browns trade the second overall pick? You get stuff for that. Then you trade Miles Garrett. You're definitely going to get stuff for that.
well,
You
then
would
it's like,
have
so then you're
foreseeable
saying
picks,
so what you're saying is a rebuild then, like you
a
blow it all
full
up.
rebuild. If I'm Cleveland, outside of Deshaun Watson, because you can't go anywhere with that, a full rebuild. And I'm even talking their tight end. You even have to potentially look at moving Chubb. I mean, unfortunately for Chubb, it's just been the injuries. Man, he's been so good. He's a top running back, but just the knee injuries, the gruesome knee injuries, we should say, have really derailed Nick Chubb.
Well, yeah, that
But
brother.
I'm saying full rebuild. Get as many picks as you can for the next couple of years, because none of the quarterbacks that are in this draft want to go there. Like, let's be real.
Well,
Like,
none of the quarterbacks that you get are going to necessarily like be a plug and play, and with the cap the hell up they're in, with the talent that they
yeah,
don't really have there. I mean, I mean they got
and
Judy that
say,
has looked good, but that's really about it. They have an okay O line, but to me, I think they should blow it up as well. I don't know if that's their
yeah,
mindset, but if they blow it up for 2 years, quote unquote tank for 2 years. If you blow it up, trade back, you have Deshaun Watson that's out this year, shelved. Bring
yeah.
back Jameis Winston, bring back Jameis Winston, bring in, a veteran, maybe like somebody kind of like Sam Darnold, see what he got, but trade away your star guys. That sucks, and Browns fans probably don't like to hear that. But if you blow it all up and move
You
off
have
those
no
guys,
choice.
get the draft capital, clear your cap space, and methodically, bring in the younger guys that are coming, the younger stars that are coming, and then after this year, in 2026, you could potentially be able to get your franchise guy.
Archie would be there next year. Now,
That's
granted, I don't know if Archie will go to Cleveland. He might pull the same thing Eli did, but I'm just saying you trade. Like I said, I agree with you. I'm just trade. You have to trade everybody from Denzel Ward, Miles Garrett. Maybe you hold on to Jerry Judy, but you got to get rid of these guys and get these picks and start to build yourself for the foreseeable future. Now, mind you, they need to get. I think they kept their GM, right? They kept the head coach and they kept the GM, right?
I
They
think
didn't
so.
fire their GM. So obviously, if you're going to do a move like that, that means that GM's going to be there for the foreseeable future, or you go ahead and get rid of him too and bring in a new staff and just try to rebuild this shit. That's my only thought for them. That's really the only right thing to
Well,
do.
to me, that's something you can do with the situation you're in with Deshaun Watson. Like you draft a rookie, then Deshaun Watson's coming back in 2026, and now you're still stuck with him as
Yeah.
competing with the rookie that you just had, and that's not going to work out well because
The only
obviously he's
reason
coming
I
back
don't
from
like,
injury.
I like and slash dislike bringing in a veteran guy like Sam Darnold. I don't like bringing him in because that's paying money that you necessarily don't
Well,
need to
I didn't
pay.
say bring Sam Darnold in. I'm saying somebody kind of like him, somebody that was a high draft pick that hasn't quite panned out, and you take a chance on them.
Do
Like I
they
said, like
try to
Dennis
take a
Winston,
chance on maybe going and grab Daniel Jones?
like Daniel Jones, like a different
I
scenery
did.
would help. Like that's not, it wouldn't be
So
a. But they're
he's
not trying
already
to
been
win.
paid. He's
That's what
getting
I'm
his
saying. Like
money.
you're not trying to win. My
Yeah.
like the Giants is kind of curious to me in what they do because I mean they have some interesting pieces
Yes. Malik
and
Neighbors,
they
dog.
kept their GM and their head coach, and
I understand the head coach. I don't understand the GM. How can you keep the GM that let Saquon Barkley Walk. Your own son literally sat there and told you on the couch. We have the video. Don't let Saquon walk. Pay him. Just pay him what he wants. The owner. I'll be sick to my stomach and have sleepless nights if Saquon Barkley goes to the Eagles. And what did that GM look at everybody and say? We're gonna roll the dice and whatever. And you roll the dice and you messed up. You messed up big time. Big time.
Yeah. Well, I still think
So
just because he let a running back walk, the running backs are dime a dozen. Now, not everybody's a Saquon
yes.
Barkley or a Christian McCaffrey, but I guess you could say he messed up big just because that's actually out there. But a lot of GMs let players walk or they go someplace else and they flourish. He didn't think that he was worth about the $15 million or $13 million that he got. That's fair. Like you don't can't pay everybody, but I think it's
Yes.
only fair to let this GM and head coach, because clearly they're on the same page, try to develop their own quarterback, because obviously Jones was not theirs. The GM
Yeah.
inherited him, and I would think it's a fair shake to let them try to develop their
Do
guy
you
because
think the
the owner
Giants should
care.
try to take Shador, reach out to Shador, like, do you still want to be here? And if that's the case, they take Shador. I mean, they have to take a
Whatever
quarterback. They don't
quarterback they
have a
like.
choice.
I mean, maybe they like Cam Moore. Maybe they trade up with the Titans to go get Cam Moore. Maybe they like Milrow. I don't know. But whoever they like, you got to go get. Because I mean, the Giants are taking a quarterback. But a team
Yes.
outside of them that really, really that irritates me, that they just need to just let it go and let go of the late 2000, the 2018, 2019, let it go is the Saints. Let it go. Blow that bitch up. Good
Yeah.
heavens. Y'all are old. Y'all are, I don't know where you keep finding money to pay people or restructure
Yeah.
deals. Let it go. Blow it up. Let the guys go. You need a full rebuild
They
there
do need a
with a
full
new head coach
rebuild.
coming in. You need just rebuild it. Drew Brees is gone. Drew Brees has been long gone. Rebuild it. You got to stop. You got to quit keeping these
Well, they
older
keep trying
stars
to run
that
it
they
back with
got.
these old guys, and like we've talked about before, they try to run it back with these guys, and they get 7, maybe 8 wins, at best 9 wins, and that's really it.
Well, Derek Carr's not the answer there, so it don't
No.
really matter. Like those guys can still have something up in the tank and still be top 10 at their position, but Derek Carr's not the answer. And Derek Carr is. It sounds like he's going to be there this coming year, so might as well just blow it up and let him get beat up and let a rookie sit behind him. In
Yeah.
my in my opinion, because I mean they paid Alvin Kamara.
Which was crazy to me. I
I
guess I
think
don't
that Alvin Kamara
understand
took
that
the
one.
money, honestly. I figured Alvin
So,
Kamara was run out, but
but then you got the Patriots that are sitting at the 4th pick. What do they do?
well, it
They
depends.
fired their head coach out of
Yeah,
nowhere. Um, Drake May actually look good. They definitely need help at receiver. Their defense is okay. I mean, they got a solid corner that's a shutdown. Where do the Patriots go? Do they try to trade up,
no.
trade back?
I mean,
What do you think the Patriots should
trade
do?
back's never trading back's never a bad thing. Like I almost always say, trade back if you can. If the guy that you want's going to be there a little bit later, you're torn between two guys. Trade back and take whatever guy's available. No, they need a skill position guy. Like you got to take
Do you
help.
think Travis wants to be in New England? Do you think that's something that entertains him?
I have no idea. No, because he wants
See,
to go to the Denver Broncos.
here's my
But
question to you. We all know it's seeming like Mike Vrabel is going to be the new head coach of the
yes,
New England Patriots.
well, they're already in
Does
contract
a
negotiations.
Vrabel
So.
and a Travis Hunter even, like work the way Mike Vrabel is? You see with the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if those two guys click.
I think they would be. I think they'd be able to figure. I think those two would click. I mean, they're both football gurus. They both love the game of football. But
Yes.
but Travis Hunter is not going anywhere because of Dion. That he's not going to allow him to play on both sides of
Yeah.
the ball. I'm more curious to see because they're going to take a wide receiver. They're the best wide receiver available. They have to. You don't have enough talent for Drake May, who has done stretches from being hurt and then put in and whatnot. Had looked good. But I've never seen Mike
Yes.
Vrabel ever develop a quarterback. He had Marcus
Yeah.
Mariota. He didn't develop. Obviously, he was not necessarily a bust, but he didn't live up to the hype. Then you
Yeah.
had Ryan Tannehill, who, in all purposes, was a white man wide receiver playing quarterback. And I mean, sure,
He
they
was
had
just
success
paid a
with
hundred
tech,
and some million
but they
dollars
had
to hand
Derrick
the
Henry.
ball off to Derrick Henry. That's what his job was.
Pretty much, you got paid to hand the ball to Derrick Henry, and it was successful. And he brings a solid defense. Like the defense, they have good defensive players there. They got to get a skill position guy. But I'm curious to see who they bring in on the offensive side of the ball for the offensive coordinator, and who's
Well,
going to be like the
from
QB
my
coach.
understanding, from what I've read, if Mike Vrabel is hired as the head coach, he's going to bring on Josh McDaniels as his OC. The same OC that Bill Belichick had.
We've never really seen Josh McDaniels ever develop a quarterback either. I mean, he's a good OC, don't get me wrong, but you have to develop this guy, and I've never seen those dudes be very successful
Very
doing
true. I
that.
agree with you on that. And then rounding out our top five, your favorite team that we love to talk about, the Jacksonville Jaguars. What did they do at the fifth? Think about it, this is the third time they've had a top five pick in like 5 years. They've had two number one picks. They've had Trevor Lawrence, and then 2 years ago they took the DN Walker, and now they're gonna have the fifth overall pick.
Just go all line. Just get a lineman. Get the best tackle. I don't know what to tell you. Like what?
The Jags is a very weird one for me.
Not really.
I don't.
Not really. How really weird? It's not really weird. They have their franchise star guy in Trevor Lawrence. They have running back depth, a good talent there, Travis Etienne and the rookie this year, and then they have Brian Thomas Jr.
Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram.
So they have talent there. They have defensive talent across the board. So it's clear as day. You either take the best D lineman or take the best O lineman. You got to get better in the trenches. And again, they also have they kept the GM, fired the head coach, but the new head coach that they hire will not report to the GM. Instead, he will report straight to the owner. I don't think that sounds good at all, considering your GM and your head coach, they got to click. I mean, they can't be butting heads, but yeah, what do I know?
You're not wrong. But yeah, those are the top five picks. Those are what we think those teams should do. We'll see what happens when it comes draft time. So many things happen during the draft. But speaking of coaches, so we obviously know the Saints need a new head coach. I don't like, again, whoever you bring at head coach there, hopefully the Saints understand, like we said, blow it up, because these guys ain't working no more. Like, it's time to move on from those guys. But really, let's see. The Saints need a new head coach. The Bears need a new head coach. The Patriots, the Jags, the Jets, the Raiders. Those are teams that need new head coaches. Atlanta kept all their guys, which was a little shocking after the disappointment that we all thought we were going to get.
Well, I think they're kind of scapegoating. I feel like kind of Atlanta's kind of the GM and the head coach and the coaching style. I feel like they're kind of like scapegoating why they weren't good onto Kirk Cousins. Like, oh, it wasn't because of us. He just couldn't,
Yeah.
He couldn't. It was his fault. He just wasn't the guy that we thought he was. And so I feel like they're kind of scapegoating him a little bit.
That's fair.
And luckily they lucked out, and they have Michael Penix, who everybody dogged on that pick, and sounds like Kirk Cousins could be there. He might retire. He has a no trade clause. They would eat too much dead money to get rid of him. So it sounds like he's going to be back in ATL this next season.
Yeah.
Backing up or starting over Michael Penix. One of the two.
So we've talked about before the Bears are searching for a head coach. We both agree that we think Pete Carroll is the best fit for Chicago. Now, Chicago's obviously interviewing a bunch of other people. I think Pete Carroll's the best fit. Like, I just think he is an all-around what they need down there, personally. We've already talked about the Patriots. We think Vrabel's going there. Now, the Jags. I don't know who wants to be that head coach, considering you're not supposed to report to the GM. You're reporting to the owner. And if you are a head coach and GM, you got to be able to get along. And if I can't go to the GM, I just don't know. I don't know if I want that job. That just seems like I'm going to get fired after 1 year type of thing.
Well, it's that and Trevor Lawrence. Like, we all got I don't know who's still on the Trevor Lawrence hype train. I know I called him their franchise superstar guy, but they paid him like it. They paid him $55 million a year. So they paid him like it. He's not. He's a bust. And maybe he needs to change his scenery as well. But dude's a bust. He was number one overall pick. Didn't live up to the hype. Has made the playoffs one time. And we thought, oh, crap. Here they come. They're clicking. He's figuring it out. And then it's just been downhill.
Yeah, we have not been able. He's still the only guy I know, like we said before, that gets paid off what he did in college. That's literally what people are still paying off. And like, we got to let that go. That's been years ago.
Well, he had to get
Like,
that backdate that was backdated NIL money that was owed to him. That's why they paid him that. All right, like that's why.
uh, let's see, the Jets. What do the Jets do at head coach here with that whole disaster of a thing down there?
Well,
In with
I think that's probably one of the more intriguing jobs is the Jets because it's going to be a clean slate. It's going to be a fresh start for whoever comes in there. Because obviously you're not bringing back Aaron Rodgers. Like that's just not happening. Devontae Adams isn't coming back. That's not happening. They have a plethora of talent on the defensive side of the ball. They need some help on the O line, but they have oh yeah, the wide receiver that if A Rod comes back, he wants out. But like I
yeah,
said, Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back. They
Garrett
have plenty of
Wilson
talent.
said if
Garrett
yeah
Wilson, and to me, it's a very intriguing job. All you're missing is your quarterback. I mean, that's all you really got to do is find is your quarterback and get some help on the O line. And
the
honestly, I
Jets
feel like
should be
the Jets should be right back in the running, in my opinion, because they didn't really lose anything out of anything. Those guys have gotten more experienced and better. Like, I mean, Sauce
yeah
had a little bit of a down year, but overall, like, it's going to take the right coach to be able to handle the Jets. But getting for me, like Sam Darnold to the Jets, well, that wouldn't be good. That's where he came from.
yeah.
So, but like if you could like find a veteran like that needs to change the scenery and draft a rookie, it would be a nice. It's been seen
Yeah.
that it's a good deal. And also, the Patriots just reached a multi-year deal with Mike Vrabel, so that's breaking news.
Wow. Okay. So Mike Vrabel is the head coach of the New England Patriots, which is just, I guess, for me, that is just crazy. Jared Mayo,
Yep.
1 season there, all this hype around him from Robert Kraft. He was supposed to be the successor to Bill Belichick. You drafted him a rookie quarterback. Brissett started the season, then you put in the rookie. You knew the team wasn't going nowhere. The rumbles of him getting fired were put to rest. And then Vrabel comes out and says, I want the coach job. And then Mayo's fired, and now Mike Vrabel's the head coach.
Hey,
Gotta
I mean,
love New England. See
oh,
what
I got
happens. Now, what do the Raiders do? The Raiders fired Antonio Pierce, which again, they've had two interim head coaches that we both agreed firing them was, I think, the wrong idea. Which is, they're our rivals. We all know that, but they. What do you expect? The drama that went on. Now
I
Tom
don't.
Brady's in here, and he's got a lot of say in this organization now. A lot of say. He's got a lot of power. And how do you feel about Tom Brady having all this power?
Good. I hope he makes all the decisions because just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're going to be great at making personnel decisions. So
That's
I
fair.
mean, he's not a great broadcaster, but like I said, like you can't be great at everything. But
Yes.
I hope he keeps making decisions because I think it was a mistake to get rid of Antonio Pierce. He set a culture there. There was a culture, a building culture that I felt could have turned into a winning culture with the right pieces. I can't. You're not going to win without a quarterback in the league. You're just not.
I mean, Brock Bowers, him, dude. Like,
But
oh
like
my
they hit
God.
on Brock Bowers, but they don't have a quarterback. Their defense is solid. They have decent pieces there that they could keep building around. If the problem for the Raiders is you have to be able to draft better. They draft and they miss way too much, and didn't have a quarterback. So Antonio Pierce already knew he didn't have a QB, and so it was an uphill battle from there. But to move him fire him after 1 season, when you had, in my opinion, for the Raiders, was about what you expected.
Yeah. I mean, they were competitive for the most part, but like you said, he was establishing a culture. You got to establish that first. The winning is going to come as that comes along. But like you said, you didn't have a quarterback. Then you had the Devontae Adams drama. Then the swirling about Max Crosby. The only real bright spot for the Raiders this whole season was Brock Bowers. I mean, the
Yeah,
dude was electric. If he could do that with below average quarterbacks, whatever you want to say those guys are. Imagine what he could do if you get him a fucking stud and get some more weapons around him. Like you have building blocks.
yeah,
Like,
oh,
and that's coming
absolutely.
from us. Like we understand, we see you can see the talent for Brock Brown. That's what I thought I was gonna get from some Kyle Pitts down there in Atlanta.
Nah,
Still waiting to see that. Like we haven't got that yet. But yeah, the Raiders, they got to figure it out quickly. Otherwise, if you don't turn this stuff around, Brock Bowers out of there. That dude's gone. He's not going to stay around for that whole disaster down there.
Well, whatever
But
team they hire, they have to. They got to start drafting better because they draft and miss way too much. They've gotten old. They have past handful of years. They've traded players away and gotten a lot of draft capital back in return,
yep,
and they've swung and they've missed, or they don't pay them to retain them. Like Josh Jacobs was one of their draft picks, and they let him walk, and he looks
yep,
great in the Packers uniform. Looks
yes,
great
he
out there in
does.
Green Bay. And they just missed way too much, but I'm not surprised they fired their head coach. Like it's just
It,
Raiders. Like that's all I know.
you're not wrong, but those are some of the coaching candidates out there, jobs that need to be curious to see how those jobs get filled out, and definitely be talking about those if they hit or miss on those. But we got playoff football. We had 2 playoff football games yesterday, and we got to start with the Chargers and the Houston Texans. That was kind of like a pick-me game, me and you kind of said. We thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was. The Houston Texans beat the Chargers 32-12. That was not on my bingo card.
Just Herbert throwing 4 interception was not on my bingo card either.
Considering he threw 3 interceptions the whole damn year. We got to talk about this real quick. So I have the stats pulled up here. Herbert has played in 2 playoff games. He played in a playoff game in 22 against the Jags. He was 25 of 43, 273 yards, 1 touchdown. That was it. They lost that game. He blew the lead to Trevor Lawrence, who I think threw like 4 interceptions in the first half of that game. And then the playoff game against Houston. He was 14 of 32 for 242 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. And one of those interceptions was returned for a pick six. Really, he had 3 interceptions because we would give him a break on the 1 interception that went right off his dude's hands, landed
No,
right in the.
no, that's still an interception. There's no asterisk. There's no the wide receiver.
Well, I mean,
No.
but he had 4 interceptions. So, like, what is this? I mean, Herbert puts up all these guru numbers in the regular season and all this, and then he's been to the playoffs twice and choke jobs, literally 2 choke jobs in 2 playoff
Well,
appearances.
his first playoff appearance was definitely a choke job, being up 20, was it 21,
It
27,
was definitely, I
something
mean,
like
up
that
20 plus.
on the Jags and choked that one away. Now, this one wasn't necessarily a choke job. Now, you can't get overzealous with yourself because what offensive weapons did they really have? That JK coming out of the backfield, coming off another injury.
Ladd had 9 catches for 197 yards in a tutty.
Yeah, so nobody knows who that dude is. Like, McConkey, no one knows who that dude is. He's a rook. No one knows who he is.
He a
But
dog, though.
yeah,
He a
I
dog.
mean, it looks like he is, he's going to have a decent career, but he has no weapons. He has legitimately no weapons.
That's fair.
At halftime, it was 10-6 at halftime, so it was the close game that we thought.
Well, even before the halftime, if you watch the first half, the Chargers were really dominating
yeah,
on the defensive side of the ball. They were all over CJ Stroud. And with like a few minutes to go in the second quarter, they had the Houston had the fumble or muff snap that CJ picked out, rolled out, and made a play out of absolutely nothing. And it just seemed like from that moment forward, it changed the complexity of the entire game. It really did. It was crazy. And then the Chargers just never were able to mount any of that success the rest of the game.
well, even like it was like 20-6, and the Chargers scored a touchdown to make it to 12, and then they get their field goal block, and then they returned it for a 2-point conversion. I'm like, oh, good God!
It's
Like
just like, hey,
anything that could go
everything
right
that
would
could go wrong just went wrong. And like some of those interceptions that Herbert threw were bad. Like the last one was hella underthrown. Like bad.
But talking on, so like we talked about like the teams in totality, but for me, the Texans started grounding and pounding a little bit more. Joe Mixon had himself a good game.
They
But
finally ran the damn ball.
Justin Herbert to me reminds me kind of like Phillip Rivers. Like he's going to put up good numbers. He's going to keep you in games for the regular season, but
Yeah.
it's going to lack that postseason success. In my opinion, that's what it kind of seems like it looks like. And granted, it's been 2 games, but he's 5-6 years in the league now. Has been to 2 playoff games and has looked horrible. That's not a great start.
Yeah. And so then let's move over to Houston. Obviously, they're people. I think people need to calm down. They were very overzealous in that game. We obviously were listening to the announcers. Like it was just like we need to calm down. Like let's bring it down. And I'm happy for Houston. You got to
It's
win.
playoff football,
Like
baby.
congrats. Like we're happy for you, but we need to bring the shit way down just a notch because
Stay high. It's so good. Stay high on it. It's playoff football. We wait 18, 19 weeks for playoff football. They got a great win against a solid team that won, I think, like 10 games. The Texans have not looked so great, and, it could be a great momentum push for them. Maybe kind of start clicking a little bit.
So CJ was 22 of 33 for 282 yards. He had one touchdown and one interception as well. I mean, had a rough start to the game. Made some throws. Obviously, it's great to have Nico Collins as one of your wide receivers. Like you said, Mixon had himself a game. 25 carries, 106 yards, and a tutty, getting basically 4 yards a carry. So.
A running back, a great running back is a quarterback's best friend.
I mean, like you said, Nico Collins, 7 catches, 122 yards. Like, that. You got to think about it, though. Like, the game plan to play Houston, you got to take away Mixon and Nico. Because outside of that, who the hell is CJ throwing the ball to?
Yeah, well, that's not really a fair comparison because, some teams don't have great stud weapons. Yeah. And just because your one guy gets taken away doesn't mean that should stymie your offense. If you're that great to be in the postseason, to be able to adjust as a coaching staff to move them to get them open because all year long, Kansas City's played without any really skilled guys outside of a 35-year-old tight end.
Yep. And then,
so I don't necessarily care that they lost Stephon Diggs and
Tank Dell
to the gruesome leg injury. But like I said, great win for the Texans. Great win for C.J. Stroud. And like that, C.J. Stroud made game-winning plays. He made plays, like you said, made something out of nothing. That's what a winning franchise quarterback does in the postseason, and we just haven't seen that from Griffin Herbert yet.
Yep. So now, obviously, the Chargers season's over. We obviously know you need more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I believe those will retain J.K. Dobbins. I think he liked to be there. He had great success. You have Ladd, who's going to be going into sophomore season. What do they do defensively? Khalil Mack and Bosa, they're not getting any younger. What do they? You got Derwin James back there. What do the Chargers need to bring in? Everyone is, obviously listening to the Tyreek Hill news that maybe Tyreek Hill wants out of Miami and the Chargers are linked to him. Tyreek Hill ain't going to fix you at all. Not going to do anything for you. But what do you think the Chargers need to do? Is it just a skill weapon here?
Well, I think the Chargers have a good foundation. Teams that build from the inside out will always be better off overall than teams that build from the outside in, meaning wide receiver, tight end, corners. If you have a great trenches on both sides, which the Chargers do, they have a good O-line. They have good cornerstone tackles, and obviously, I know you said Bosa and Khalil Mack both getting Khalil Mack especially is getting a lot older in the tooth, and just kind of depends on where you see your need at, and see where you're trying to spend your free agency money. If you can get Tyreek Hill, it's going to give you a weapon. It's going to open up your offense. Yes. Now he's turning 32, and he should obviously look a lot better in a better run scheme with a way better quarterback. But outside of a skill position guy, which they desperately need offensively, they probably need to go a linebacker or another pass rusher.
Very fair.
Obviously, probably a defensive tackle.
I mean, if we know what John Harbaugh likes to do, we obviously know he's going to build. He's going to go get something. We'll see if he can do it with the Chargers and have some success like he had with the 49ers. We'll have to wait and see that. But Houston's moving on. Chargers season's over. They got their work to do. The other playoff game we had was the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, a divisional game. Had high hopes for this game. We did. But Derrick Henry had other plans.
Yep, Derrick Henry told Minkah Fitzpatrick to get out of the club.
Yeah, dude, it didn't even look like that hard of a hit. And Miss Patrick almost lost his damn
Let Derrick Henry do
his
it to you.
soul, dude.
Let
His
Derrick
soul
Henry
was gone.
let Derrick Henry run full speed at you and then shove you in the face. Let's see where you
Derrick
go.
Henry killed me. I'd be
Okay.
dead. But
It
Derrick, like,
looked that hard. He clearly got 5 yards, but
again,
okay.
Baltimore won the game. He got another, beat Pittsburgh, his arch nemesis that he struggles against, beat him in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, 16 for 21, 175 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Solid numbers. Nothing that blows me out the water, like, whatever. But Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, basically getting 7 yards a carry.
They had
That's what you
299 rushing yards. Like when you can rush for almost for practically 300 rushing yards, yeah, like you're going to take care of business. And
yeah.
like so he didn't need, Zay Flowers didn't play, which everyone thought that was going to be a big problem. But when you put Derrick Henry in the Wildcat and then he goes and he runs for 45 yards, your day's going to look pretty okay.
Justin Hill had the most catches on the team at 4.
Yeah.
Like Isaiah Likely had 3 catches, Andrews 2 catches, Aguilar 1, Bateman 2, Wallace 1, and then I said Hill had 4, and then Miller had 3. So like you said, this game was in the trenches for Baltimore. They handed the ball off. They got out to a quick lead. I think it was 21-0 at halftime, and they just rode Derrick Henry, the run game, like you're supposed to do.
I just don't
So
I just don't trust the Ravens moving past this
yeah,
personally. But on the
and
Steelers
then
side, on the Steelers
what did
side,
this?
they
Go ahead.
to me like they ended the season on a 6 game losing streak now since their season is now officially
Yeah,
over. And Russell Wilson's not the answer. He was a nice little scapegoat, a nice little bump in the road for them to stay competitive.
yeah.
But defensively, T.J. Watt didn't finish the season very well. I don't know if he was, banged up or what it was, but he didn't look right or
But
the
that
stuff that
defense is
got that.
also old too. Outside of TJ, like those guys are getting older too. That front line,
Yeah, but the Steelers draft well defense. The Steelers, the problem is the Steelers, they draft good. Like they don't miss on their draft picks.
yeah,
And so, like, I don't really have like they can keep those guys back, bring the guys back because they draft well behind them. But to me, like, they have to find if you can't bring Russell Wilson back. Like, you're going to be in the same boat. I think Justin Fields, you have to bring him back, and
yes,
you have to figure out what you're doing at wide receiver with your diva.
yeah.
And if you move him, you got to get him a you have to have a skill position guy for your
Or
quarterback.
do they bring back Najee Harris? They didn't pick up his option.
I don't think they will. I think they're going to let him walk. I don't think they value the running back at that
Considering in this
market.
game where you needed him, 6 carries, 17 yards, that's
Well,
all he got.
when you're down 21-0 at halftime, it's kind of hard like hand the
You're
ball
not
off.
wrong. I'll give you that.
But my
But
question
what
for you is,
another
what do you
question
do with
I want to bring up
what do
to
you do
you
with Mike
because
Tomlin?
huh?
What do you do with Mike Tomlin?
That's what I was about to ask you. What do we do with Mike Tomlin? He hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. Damn near been 10 years. Granted, he has never had a losing season since he's been the head coach. But at what point is it time to possibly move on? I know that's rare for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they've had guys that have literally just been the head coach for decades on decades. But maybe it's time to let Mike Tomlin go, trade him to a team that needs a head coach. And start fresh. Maybe it's that time. I don't know, but in that same breath, if you move on from Mike Tomlin, what does that mean for the other guys? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do the
Well,
Steelers do? Does that mean like you're just gonna move on and maybe rebuild? I don't know.
the Steelers don't need to rebuild. They have plenty of pieces there. They're a great defensive team with plenty of talent
I
offensively.
guess the question would be, Brandon, if they do move on from Mike Tomlin, who would be the right guy to fit in Pittsburgh with that organization, with the way that it needs to be?
Well, it's the Lions DC, in my opinion.
Ben Johnson?
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but the Lions DC there would fit perfectly with the Steelers narrative, and a great place for Mike Tomlin to go and fall would be the Raiders. But I don't think
Ooh.
I don't think the Steelers are going to move
Ooh.
off of him though. I think they just got to figure out their quarterback spot. I can't. You have great coaches, but if you don't have a quarterback like Bill Belichick was a subpar head coach, great DC, but a subpar head coach with the Browns and preview Tom Brady and after Tom Brady. But with Tom Brady, great head coach. Andy Reid with Dominic McNabb, solid. Michael Vick was okay. Nick Foles, not so. But then
Alex Smith,
Alex
a little
Smith, like
bit
solid.
better.
And then you get Patrick Mahomes, the
Boom. Yeah.
potentially the GOAT. You get to look great if you have the quarterback. It starts with the quarterback, and
Yeah. They got to
you got
figure
to
it
figure
out
that
too.
part
Be
out.
curious to see what the Pittsburgh Steelers do with their roster, the quarterback, Mike Tomlin. Going to be an interesting offseason for the NFL once the playoffs are over. I think there's going to be a lot of moving parts, but we have 3 games today that we need to talk about. Starting with the Denver, what?
It's 2 games.
We have 3 games: the Denver Bills, Packers, Eagles, Bucks, and Commanders.
No, that's right. I was thinking of
Yeah,
the Rams.
the Rams play Monday.
Yep.
So we have 3 games today. Starting with the first game, Denver and Buffalo. How you feeling about that game? Do you give any slim chance to the Denver Broncos at all?
I give a lot of chances. I think the Bills are like an 8-point favorite, and if I'd be taking them points. Like I think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a very interesting game. We gave Buffalo what they wanted. Buffalo didn't want Cincinnati. Everyone tried to say, "Oh, Kansas City." Well, they want the Bengals. No, the Buffalo Bills didn't want Cincinnati,
Yes.
and we
Thank
gave
you.
them exactly what they wanted. We gave them an easy first round win. So here you go, Buffalo. Don't fuck it up.
Pretty
Fuck
much.
around, Bo Nix, and more really, Sean Payton will outcoach Sean McDermott, and Sean McDermott will shoot the Buffalo Bills a la
In
Josh
the
Allen
foot.
in the foot if they
Especially
keep
if
it
the
close.
game is close.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's
If the
close,
game's close and you are on the defensive side of the ball, he will fuck up to let the Denver Broncos score points.
well,
He's done it.
I'm just saying in totality, it could be offense, defense, special teams. Sean McDermott will make a wrong call or a wrong decision that will come back and haunt Buffalo. It could just be as simple as using timeouts improperly in the
That's
playoffs. It
fair.
comes back to haunt you. And Sean Payton is a well-oiled machine, a veteran head coach with a Super Bowl ring with the Saints, and Bo Nix has nothing to lose. Doesn't have anything else to. I mean, he has a lot to prove, but he's playing with house money. Nobody thought the Broncos would be here,
Yeah.
and the Broncos are going to come in and play free, while the Bills obviously have Super Bowl aspirations. I think Buffalo should just wax them, but I have a feeling that it's not going to be so. I think it's going to be
That's
kind of an
fair.
ugly
I
close
agree.
game.
I agree. And then after that, we got the Packers and Eagles. This game is very intriguing because, again, for the simple fact of, I think Jalen Hurts is playing, but I haven't heard anything indicating
I
that
haven't,
Jalen Hurts is playing. So I
I,
don't know.
I haven't heard anything. I have not seen where he is active.
The only
So
thing I've heard was he was a go in practice. And to me, like, that don't mean nothing until I know
you
that you're
know,
good for the game. So, like, this game's tough for me to choose because if Jalen Hurts is in there, okay. But if Kenny Pickett's in there, we are having a different conversation, a different workload for Saquon Barkley. That if I'm the Packers and I have Kenny Pickett, boy, the Packers, woo, like you
it's a big relief for the Packers because they obviously lost Watson for the year with an ACL,
ACL.
but Jordan Love also is coming in a little banged up. But if I'm a Packers fan and Hurts isn't going, that's great. But I don't really think the workload for Saquon Barkley really changes who's at quarterback. I think they're going to, honest, if they're smart, they're going to be like the Ravens and feed Saquon Barkley
Saquon Barkley.
and pretty much run him into the ground for all the games you have. Like you rested for a full game, and you could have got the rushing
But it'd be
record.
kind of the same way for the Packers too. Josh Jacobs going to get a massive workload.
Yeah, to me, though, I just think the Eagles have a better defense that's going to be able to
Their
shut down
front
Josh
line's a
Jacobs.
lot better. I'll give you that. The front line of the Philadelphia with Carter and all them guys up front, dude.
I just think
It'll
the
be
Eagles, top to bottom, have probably the most talented roster, active, healthy roster in the
yeah.
NFC, with the better coaching staff when it comes to the coordinators. And to me, that's it's going to be to give them the edge. Whether or not if Hurts a go, that's just kind of another notch in their boat because I think
Yeah.
Hurts, in my
But if
opinion,
Hurts is not there, that gives the Packers a lot more confidence for sure.
what would you say? Who's better quarterback, Love or Hurts?
I would say Hurts for
Who's
me.
who's the better running back, Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley?
Saquon Barkley.
Who has the better head coach?
The Packers.
Yeah, the Packers. I didn't say coordinator, the head coach. And then who's
Head
better in the
coach
trenches?
Packers. Now, I don't trust Nick Sirianni
No,
for anything. I don't. I'm sorry, I
but
just don't.
I
And I
don't think.
think Eagle fans would tell you they don't even trust their goddamn head coach.
But
I
I
mean,
think
we had chance during this season. Fire him. They were literally screaming that. And the Eagles had a great season, and they were still screaming,
I
fire
don't
Nick
necessarily
Sirianni.
know how much Nick Sirianni is really in charge. I don't want to say he's like a puppet figure, but he's definitely
Well,
not in
you
charge.
said this last year. The Eagles looked horrible because they had a new offensive coordinator, DC. They weren't the right fit this year. They come back with a new OC and DC, and look at them now. Like you said, I agree with you. What does Nick Sirianni really do outside of that? He's the head coach. He gives a speech, break, go play. Like outside of that, like that's what I think he does.
Honestly,
So
to me, it's just a little off subject. So on the Eagles, if I'm the Eagles and you don't make a Super Bowl run, and there's potential that you could lose Brian Daboll's, their DC, I fire Nick Sirianni and promote Brian Daboll's. Like Nick
absolutely,
Sirianni has given you no reason to trust him
nope.
as a head coach.
Absolutely. And then we have the game, I think that's kind of intriguing to me. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders. I just know it's going to be great to see Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans go at it because those two dudes are going to fight each other. Like, that's what, like, them dudes are going to fight. But well, what's your thoughts on this game? You got Baker Mayfield, who's established, found a home. You have probably the rookie of the year in Jalen Daniels, who had a phenomenal year as well. Got the Commanders to the playoffs. Where do you see this game going? Like, I don't know. I'm torn on this one. It should be the Bucks. They're the veteran roster. They're the more experienced. But like the Commanders, they're Dan Quinn's got them playing some good football.
To me, overall, it's a kind of a pick me game, but I'm really curious to see how Jalen Daniels handles the biggest game of really his life, it being in the postseason. We've already seen Baker in the postseason, and so I'm to me, as a fan, I'm more curious to see how this rookie QB
Handles the
handles the
spotlight.
pressure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then obviously we have the Monday night game that has been moved from California to Arizona, right? Am I correct? They moved it to Arizona because of the fires in California. But you got the Vikings and Rams, and the poor ass Vikings. Like, I don't want to play the Rams, dog. The Rams are too dangerous right now. They are healthy, they are angry, and listen, shout out to Minnesota. They had a great season. Sam Darnold, like, if you play well in this game, you might earn yourself a couple more $1 million. But like, to keep it buck, I don't think the Vikings stand a chance against the Rams. I really don't.
I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and honestly, like the Rams coming in, like I said, completely healthy
Hot.
with Matthew Stafford. Like Matthew Stafford, still no slouch in this league. Probably, honestly, like you could make it arguable that probably the best quarterback still in the NFC at this point in time, let alone in the playoffs. And for Sam Darnold, every playoff win he gets, that's just a couple, 10, 15 more $1 million
I
in his
guess
pocket.
for me, the reason I trust the Rams more is because, like, this is Sam Darnold's first time here. Now, granted, he was with the Niners last year with their Super Bowl run, but he didn't play in the moments. He didn't feel the intensity, the pressure. Nothing was on him. It's on you now, and you've never been here before. So if
Let's
I need you to go get me a score in the 2-minute drill, I don't know if I can trust you. I trust Matthew Stafford to go do it. We've seen him do it plenty of times.
Well, that's why we both agree that, like I said about Jalen Daniels, he's a rookie. I'm curious to see how he handles the being in the pressures. For him, it's pretty much like every snap or like the first drive is going to be pressure. Coming out of halftime is going to be kind of pressure. That you kind of sink into the game. But
Yeah,
I'm curious to see how Sam Darnold can handle the pressure because, like you said, he's never had that. Last week he had the pressure and not necessarily all on him, but like the quarterbacks get all the glory and they get all the hate when they win
yep,
and lose. So to see how he handles the biggest pressure, the biggest game of his life, even though he's been in the biggest game, he didn't play, but he's been to the biggest stage as a
yeah,
backup with the Niners last year. Curious to see how he actually handles the pressure. If he looks and comes out, balls out, and they lose, dude's getting paid by somebody. He's earned probably like a 3 year
absolutely.
something deal.
But Dad, those are the games that we got. I'm ready to watch some football today. We'll definitely keep you guys up to date of what we think of analyzing the game next week. But definitely hit that subscribe button, guys. We got so much we'll be talking about next week. More about the Natty, the playoff game. So definitely hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next week.